A useful insight can be that intelligence is no guarantee whatsoever of objectivity, integrity, genuine insight, genuine self awareness, or anything like that. Why might that be? We see that sometimes we may at least feel that if a person appears to be intelligent, for example, highly verbally fluent, and or being possessed of some or another sort of skill, right? High level mathematician, right? High level musical ability, high level artistic ability, that somehow uh, gives that individual authority and credentials above and beyond that which he or she can obviously do. Right? If somebody is obviously good at math, they are obviously good at math. But one may feel that that person being good at math or being verbally fluent means that he or she has something else, such as integrity, such as honesty, such as self awareness, such as objectivity. And an individual, him or herself, may even make the error of thinking that because he or she is intelligent, that must mean that I have some other trait as well, right? I must be then right about other things because I'm smart, quote unquote. So, why is this a fallacy? We say that, to put it simply, what we call intelligence or the capacity to see intellectually is led by our goals, by our agendas, by our desires. And that intelligence by itself, uh, without really special concentrated efforts, will not correct bad goals and bad desires and a poor character. On the contrary, it is its slave. So, what does that mean? So, for instance, let's say that my goal is to get from point A to point B. Whatever capacities of intellect that I have, depending on the urgency of the situation, may then be kind of drafted so as to serve this goal. Maybe I need to just plug it into the GPS. Maybe the GPS is broken. I need to go the old fashioned route and find a map. Maybe I don't have a map. I need to ask people, whatever the case might be. Right? So here there's some kind of goal, and then my intellectual capacities are at the service of that goal. Now, if my goal is good, then the activity of my intelligence can be fruitful and useful. And I want to do something nice. I want to do something good. Let me figure out how to do it. If my goal is not so good, is antisocial, destructive, selfish, then that very same intelligence will be hijacked for that goal all the same. And that could be a way to think about why intelligence does not in the least guarantee anything beyond itself. For example, if I am, or I remain, excuse me, essentially self-centered, my intelligence will essentially be at the service of that self-centeredness. And no extent of it will in itself reduce my self-centeredness. No extent of it will make me willing to genuinely look at myself. We see this fascinatingly, however it's said, at play in connection with very intelligent individuals that otherwise could be called a bit narcissistic, a bit antisocial, and such. Let's say that the person is intellectually a genius. That whole genius then is put at the disposal of that self-centered, narcissistic character and will, and the stories that a person can spin up to justify his or her actions, to differentiate him or herself from others, to demonize others, to look down on others, to figure out ways that one is superior and on top concerning others are amazing. Right? The same thing is at play with somebody with lower intelligence, but that person might just Put it simply, screw everybody else. I want my way, and that's it. And if they're pressed, I don't know, get out of my face. That's it. Somebody with high intelligence, same dynamic, but that great intelligence will be put at the disposal of this goal, which is to retain that self-centeredness, those feelings of superiority, that pride, and such. Further, we say that if I do have that fundamentally self-centered, self-focused character, whatever other accruements of education I may accumulate. I have now my second degree, my third degree. I've written my 10th book on self-knowledge and self-awareness and so forth. All of that will still amazingly be at the service of my bad character. To reemphasize, there is no amount of educational, intellectual accomplishments, accolades that can ever in itself turn things around and make it so that I am not fundamentally about myself. So what then is to be done? Well, firstly, simply as a safeguard, right, I should assume that, or should keep in mind that I might be very clever, right? I might be very smart, I might be able to get a high score on some or another test designed to test for that elusive quality called intelligence. That says absolutely nothing by necessity about anything else about me, about my character, about my goodness, about my ability to sacrifice and overcome myself, about my capacity to love others. And those are the things that count. I cannot and should not, well, I can try, but I should not, and ultimately I will not find solace in being clever. Even computers can be clever when I don't have my ethical ducks in line, so to speak, when I'm not such a fine person, in other words. That's as it concerns oneself. Don't think, oh, I'm clever, and therefore I'm right about everything. Therefore, obviously, I'm self-aware. Obviously, I don't skew everything to serve myself. Obviously, my entire worldview and all of my beliefs and all of my opinions, all of my claims, obviously, they're not in subservience to my fundamental agenda, which is self-centeredness. Can't assume that whatsoever, no matter how smart I am. Smarter I am, the more at risk I am for just that. And no matter how many accolades I have, and no matter how much I have studied psychology and so forth. Now, as it concerns others, I can keep the same thing in mind. I should not be tricked by things that glitter, as it said, by fancy tricks. Oh, this person is very clever. This person can speak well. This person has some other kinds of skills. Therefore, they must clearly be objective. They must clearly have integrity. They must clearly have opinions, worthwhile opinions. Not at all. Not even one bit. By that very fact. For some other reason, I can think that, but not by the fact of their intelligence. Now, briefly, as it concerns any possibilities of improvement in these arenas, the trick would seem to be to turn my intelligence in on itself. Right? To use any cognitive capacities that I may have to acknowledge my self-centeredness, to acknowledge my alienation and my bad will, and to try to deepen my humility. That seems to be about all that I can do with my intelligence. If I create extensive plans to be humble, to be morally superior, then I'm just falling into a trap. I can't become humble by pursuing humility. I can't become moral by pursuing moral superiority. What I can do, however, is to, again, turn that intelligence in on itself, turn the spotlight back on me, see my character for what it is, stop hiding behind any cleverness and or intelligence that I may suppose myself to have, and to instead try to, again, clarify that picture of self, which in itself should, if I'm thinking straight, contribute to genuine humility. And that perhaps can permit me to eventually be straightened out a little bit, to reduce my fundamentally self-centered orientation, and then an intelligence untethered, however the word is pronounced, unrooted in self, can really do good for oneself and for others, but not while it is a slave of and subservient to self. So we can consider it. Thank you for listening.